Welcome back to the Centered on Buffalo podcast. Our next guest is a comedian and incredible content creator, and that's Joey Mulinaro. Joey, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate you having me, man. Great to talk to you, man. Excited to be here.
Yeah, one of the best follows on social media for a while, and now I turned on the NFL Combine. You're in studio with Rich Eisen. You're all over the place now, which is great to see. You got some comedy shows coming up, which we'll plug here in a little bit. But I just want to know, at what point in your career, we'll say, at what point did you realize you could make a job out of what you're doing now?
Man, it wasn't until later on, I'd say, because it was always, I went to school to be a sports broadcaster, to do play-by-play and things like that, and host radio shows, sports talk radio shows on the traditional radio, not just podcasts, right? But then I just got this itch and this desire to want to make people laugh. I want to be in the sketch comedy game and acting and things like that. And so I kind of started pursuing that on the side a little bit, all with I don't really know if this is going to work out. I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. The only person that's ever made it from here is David Letterman, that's all we got. Right. So
that's a pretty big one though.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a big feather in our cap for sure, but it's a small cap, so I was just trying to go to school and have jobs to where my parents are like, hey, what the hell are you doing? We sent you to school for a reason. I know, hey, mom and dad, I know I got a job, but I'm doing this on the side. Not to say that they weren't supportive, because they're the most supportive, but at the same time, it's like they don't want me just screwing around, So really it wasn't until, 2019 or so. I graduated college in 2016, and I'd been working at a radio station in Indy all throughout college, and I spent the next 3 or 4 years doing that as well. And on the side, it started picking up for me, right? I started getting more of a following, and then I started having people come to me being like, hey, whether they were brands or different media outlets and whatnot, that were like, hey, love what you do, would love to do something with you, partner with you. And I was like, oh, so this is a thing where people can get paid to do stuff on the internet. And that's where it went in 2019, late 2019, early 2020. And I just ran with it from there, man.
You mentioned you had family support, but there's always going to be questions, especially you get out of college. What are you doing next? I remember when my career ended, I had a career-ending neck injury back in 2017. And so that next off season, I was just trying to figure it out. Everyone's like, what are you doing nowadays? And I'm like, well, I'm just trying to figure it out. And they're like, you're too young to be retired. I'm like, I realize that. I want to do something. And so immediate family, I'm sure, is going to support you. But did people maybe at a big family party, or when you're getting together with buddies like Joey, can you really make a career out of this?
Oh yeah, man. I still get that today. For my older relatives, I always get, it'll be Mother's Day or Thanksgiving or something. They'll be like, so you still, the video stuff, you still doing that? How's that going? I'm like, yeah, the video stuff, I'm still doing that. And they're like, in the radio, you still on that? I'm like, yeah, but I just say yeah to everything just so they feel better about it. But yeah, half the people in my life still don't know what the hell I do, which that's why I'm really trying to center it of hey, I entertain, I'm a comedian, I do shows. It's not that hard to get if you just want to get it. But no, I still get that. The old, just on the video thing. How's that going? And, yeah, but no, they were all, even if they did kind of hint around it. Even my mom kind of did. She'd be like, this is really good, but, and she'd kind of give that mom look where she kind of we gotta, there's, you gotta have a job, right? Like that kind of deal, So she's very supportive and always encouraging. But on the back end, Mama Bear came out and was making sure that I was doing what I needed to do to be able to eat and have a roof over my head.
Yeah, a lot of the most successful people, everyone thinks they're crazy until it works, and at this point, it's working. So let's talk in football terms. How much film preparation, how much studying is going into these impersonations that really skyrocketed you with the Saban and everybody else? How much film prep and preparation is going into those?
Each one of them ranges. It's like I kind of think about, and I'm sure this isn't how it is, but I always like to think that some football teams, if you're playing, Arizona in week 2, you're kind of just like, we're good here. We can kind of roll the ball out. But if you're if you're playing Kansas City, you really got to lock in and you got to be on your pins and your details. That's kind of how it is for me. Like, there's some of them that for whatever reason, I guess just God given, I lucked out, but there's some people that like I can hear them talk and then I can hear it in my head and I can just kind of spit it back out to where I'm like, okay, I can do that one. And it doesn't take that much time. But there's other ones that, like you said, like I'll have to go back and I'll film myself. I'll record myself. I'll get into character. I'll do something for 30, 40 seconds or whatever I think, feels a good amount of time. And I'll play it back. And I'm like, okay, I think I need to maybe drop my voice down a little bit to make it a little bit deeper to match. Maybe, with like Mahomes, it needs to be a little bit more nasally. Maybe they have a certain word that they emphasize a lot. Like I always talk about how like Mel Kiper always says like red flag. Like it's not red flag, it's a red flag. Big concern is he's got a huge concern. Like he really hits that word really hard. And so I try to pick up on those things too when it's going down in the process. So it's really like half and half. Funny enough, like now I think about it, it's like about half of them I'm like, okay, I can hear them, and then I can kind of let it rip, and it's pretty solid, pretty good. But then there's another half to where I'm like, okay, I think that would be a good one to try. I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to study them. And then I'm going to study myself doing them. And so it all ends up to just being a lot of me in my basement talking to myself in different voices. So totally insane.
That's where the mastery comes from. You just in your basement talking to yourself. Has there been anybody that you really wanted to do, and then after looking at yourself doing, you're like, I don't have this guy?
Man, yeah, I get that question a lot. Fair amount, not a lot. Peyton Manning has always been one that I just can't nail down. I just can't get it. And I don't know why. It's really frustrating because if I could add that one to my arsenal, I think we'd be cooking with something really good there. But I've tried and I've set my tripod up down here in my basement, and I've run through all sorts of Peyton Manning being your waiter at a steakhouse, Peyton Manning being a little league coach, Peyton Manning breaking down the Oscars. I've done all these scenarios where I've really just been like, because that's kind of what I do. Like I'll take a character, a person, I'll say, okay, them doing this, and then that's where I'll just like let it fly. And for whatever reason, man, I just can't get him down. I don't know if it's the drawl. I don't know if it's how he talks out of the side of his mouth, kind of like I'm not giving up on it yet, because like I said, he's such a mainstay and such a legend. And especially me being an indie guy, like, I mean, Peyton Manning, it's like Peyton Manning, God, Bobby Knight, like, like where I grew up, like that's essentially, what I grew up with. And so it'd be a big one to get, but I just haven't gotten there yet. But he's definitely kind of the white whale right now.
Yeah, because you nailed Andrew Luck, his replacement. Now you just gotta nab the big dog.
Yes, that's the hope. Yeah.
What's been the biggest kind of pinch me moment so far in this journey that you've been on?
Man, so many. I mean, I was talking to a guy I used to work with at the radio station. I was talking. He teaches like adjunct at a university, and he had me talk with his class actually yesterday, and I was talking with him, and I actually like it kind of sprung on me because I was like, I told them, if 25-year-old me knew what 30-year-old me would be doing, the contacts that I'd have, the experiences, the conversations that I'd have, I mean, 20, I just would not have believed it. I didn't see a realistic route when I was 25 to honestly get to where I am right now. So all that being said, that I'm just like really lucky and blown away so many times of the people that I get to talk to, the things I get to do. I mean, I watched so many of it, like Eric Wood, like he's Buffalo, like he's a Buffalo Bill, like he's one of those, you know what I mean? Like I always thought about when he followed me, I was like, oh yeah, Buffalo Bills, Eric Wood, right? So like even talking to you on this, I'm like 25-year-old me never would have gotten this invite to be on this show. The biggest one, man, I probably have to say one of two things. One being Jimmy Fallon messaging me.
That's really cool.
Because I've always looked up to him so much. He's kind of a someone who I really tried to base I love what he does. He does voices and he does characters and he does sketches and he interviews people on the Tonight Show. Like, he's an entertainer. He just does kind of a lot. That's what I want to be like. And so all of a sudden in like 2020, because I did an impression of him and then he followed me, which was really cool. But then in 2020, it was right the heat of COVID, right? And I didn't I had tested positive. It was like at the time where it was like, if you got COVID, you were 2 weeks secluded. No, you know what I mean? So I just put it out something on Twitter. I was like, hey, like my content may have been maybe slow lately. Like, I tested positive for COVID. Like I'm all good, but just wanted to let everybody know. And then I wake up the next morning and I have a DM from Jimmy. And he's like, hey, man, are you okay? Like, how are you feeling? Is there anything I can do for you? And I'm
like, dude.
I'm like, I mean, yeah, there's a lot you could do for me. You could hire me on the Tonight Show, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah, despite what Aaron Rodgers said, despite what Aaron Rodgers thinks. Or no, sorry, that's Jimmy Kimmel. That's who he got in the spat with, not Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, Jimmy.
That's right.
A lot of Jimmys, but that's Kimmel on the West Coast. This is Fallon on Tonight Show.
Right.
And so I was just like, oh man, no, like I'm good. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for reaching out. And he followed me back. He said, just let me know, man. He said, yeah, stay safe. He said, we need funny people in the world. And so that was just like one that he like took the time to message me, but then two that he said that I was funny and that in that way. So that was super cool. And then two, McConaughey reposted on his Instagram story one of my videos about him, and that was
big time.
That was insane. I mean, that was absolutely crazy. So
you have the ultimate networking tool. It's like, I'm going to do an impression of somebody. I'm going to do an impersonation. And as long as it's not overly offensive,
sure,
they're probably going to like me. And no,
it's a great way to look at it. And that's, it's funny you mentioned that about like, as long as it's not overly offensive, because that's another question I get a lot is like, have you talked to people? Do people who you do, have they said anything? And Chris Collinsworth, during the Super Bowl week of Rams-Bengals, when they were calling that game, one of my buddies he went to Purdue and then he plays for the Bengals. And he went up to Collinsworth after practice out there and he was like, hey, Chris, you know my guy Joey Mulinaro, right? And he said, Collinsworth just looked at him and just said, the thing I love about Joey is he's never mean-spirited. And so I was like, yes, exactly. Like I'm not, I don't do it in a way where I'm being rude or attacking the person. I do it in a fun way, to put these people in different lights. And I said about, and I think Cowherd even nailed it too. I'm like, honestly, like the people that I impersonate, it's out of respect, and it's because I'm such a fan of you that I follow you, I watch you, I listen to you, and I've been able to pick up on these things that's helped with my impression. So yeah, Collinsworth nailed it,
That's good. Has Saban ever reached out to you? Have you spoken to Saban about your impersonations of him?
In roundabout ways. I mean, it's this Saban thing, man. I mean, so in 2019, I don't know if you remember that clip of Saban after, I think, week 1, when it was like the quarterback battle between Tua and Jalen Hurts at the time. And Maria Taylor asked him after the game, kind of, I think it was like what he thought he saw from the two quarterbacks or something like that. And where he hit him with I'm not going to, so quit asking. When he dropped that and it went crazy, this was 2 months later. It was Thanksgiving. And again, in my baby mind at the time, I was like, hey, what about I think this scenario could be funny. Like Nick Saban in the kitchen on Thanksgiving, like talking to his wife and kind of just like being pissed off.
Right.
And dude, like I ripped a couple takes of it in my kitchen. My wife was at work. It was the day before Thanksgiving. I had the day off. I was like, yeah, this could be fun. I don't know. had no expectation that was going to be like the one, if you will, that like took off, you know? And so I did it and I put it out there and it's doing pretty good. You know, people are liking it or whatever. And then the next day on Thanksgiving, it's like ESPN, Sports Illustrated, Barstool, Bleacher Report, all these play like FS1 played it on TV on Black Friday. Like, you know, so I'm just saying, like, it just took like it took off on a life of its own, you know, like, and I had no expectation of it at all. And it's so funny. And I'm really honored and flattered that like, and it's so stupid that like Nick Saban and me are kind of like, I'm tied to Nick Saban forever.
Right.
You know, it's really surreal. But his daughter actually reached out to me not too long after I started doing that. And she would quote tweet a few of them and be like, "Oh my God, spot on. So funny." And so we became internet pals, me and his daughter, Kristen. And at one point I was like, man, I just have a feeling that he would not like this. Like, I don't know if I don't know how familiar with everybody is with Nick Saban, but he's not a very happy seeming guy to the public eye, right? He's pissed off a lot of times.
For sure.
So like, there's no way that he's like getting a chuckle out of this. So I reached out to her and I was just like, hey, like, I hope you know that it's all like in good fun what I'm doing with your dad. Like, I have great respect for him. Like, it's not meant to be anything, like you said, offensive or anything. I'm just having fun, and people seem to like it. And she got back and she was like, oh no, like it's totally, like, we totally understand. I show him and my mom all the time. They laugh about it, you know, yada, yada. So I'm like, okay. So apparently he's seen it. Apparently he chuckles and Miss Terry thinks it's funny. That's great. But I've never had like a full, like, one-on-one, like 5 minutes with Coach Saban. I never have. I've come super close. I was at the Alabama LSU game last year with my Fox Sports deal. And the AD at Alabama took me and my family through like all their facilities the day before the game, all the offices, everything. And I'm like, okay, he's doing this for the big moment, right? Like, I'm gonna turn a corner, and there he's gonna be there, right? And we're gonna have a moment, and it's gonna be great. And so I'm like kind of waiting it out, you know. And then the AD just looks at me and he's like, I know you want to talk to the big guy, but day before game day, he's got blinders on. Just no chance. And I was like, ah.
Yeah, he hasn't been doing long enough, so he needs all that extra prep time before the game.
Right, yeah. I'm like, just 2 minutes, man. 2 minutes where my wife could take a video, we could shake hands, take a picture.
Talk to each other in the same voice.
Right, that's all I want. You know, that's all I want. And I've yet to get it. They did show me the podium. Like, I got to get behind the podium where he did his press conferences, you know, and I could feel like the aura of it all taking over me. They brought the Coke bottle out for me. You know, I had it all set up there. It was really funny, but didn't get to meet him. And I actually did get to, I have met him officially. And I talk about it for the Buffalo folks, who are listening with my show coming up in April 17th at Helium in Buffalo. I do talk about it in my act of the time that I actually did meet the man. And I want to kind of tease that there for everybody to be able to hopefully come see and have a laugh about.
Yeah, we'll plug that here in just a second. But first, a quick shout out to our sponsor, Prime. Best sports drink on the planet. My kids love it. Your kids will too. And you'll also enjoy it. So you have this comedy show coming up in Buffalo, April 17th. You got a comedy tour for all those listening outside of Buffalo that won't be able to make that show. So as you transition from, you know, your kitchen making videos and the podcast studio to the stage, what kind of nerves come about when you're in front of a crowd that is paying money for you to make them laugh? And I know, and I would say this, like when I hear comedians talk about like that's the most pressure on stage, I do a little bit of public speaking. I've talked to comedians, they're like, you know, if you go out there, you know, you could be funny, you could be inspirational, you could, you know, pull on their heartstrings, but we have to make them laugh. That's why they paid the money. And then I tell them, like, yes, but they're coming expecting to laugh. They're in a good mood. Like, that's why they came. So I say all that. What kind of nerves come about when you're going into a show like that?
Yeah, dude. It's tough. It is doing stand up is, man, I mean, it is hard, because even though there's those times where, like you said, like I'm lucky enough to where, I've gotten a following and people will pay their money, thankfully, to come and see me because they follow me, they know me and what I do. But even that being said, man, like the audience never lies. It's like the tape,
Right.
it's like the eyes in the sky don't lie. Neither does the audience. Like, even if they're your biggest fan and you're there and you have a bit that doesn't work, you'll know it. And so it's tough, dude. I mean, but it was always part of the game plan. Part of my, vision, master plan, if you will, is okay. Because Eric, I started in low form, local radio, sports radio, media grunt. Like, I was just trying to find anything I could to break through the wall, to break through the weeds, to separate myself from other competitors, if you will, because there's all these people coming out of college who are gunning for the same jobs that I was,
Right.
And so that's where I was like, well, I'm going to utilize the internet. I'm going to put out impressions. I'm going to put out sketches. I'm going to create my own stuff. And all with the idea of, okay, then if people think I'm funny and like what I'm doing on there, then they'll follow me. And then, they'll want to come see me eventually once I get an act together and can perform it. And include all these different things that they like, you know what I mean, in my act. So it was all part of the plan. But the transition definitely is different, because I mean, I'll put out a video and, I kind of wait, right? I wait a little bit, see, it's doing pretty well. People seem to like it. It's not doing well. People don't seem to like it. But still, it's not that instant knowing and feeling of, oh, sheesh, that went over some people's heads. It just didn't hit the funny bone, apparently. So it's just a totally different element, man. But I think, it's just important. Just like being a football player, being a well-rounded, like, if you want to be an entertainer, you got to have the live aspect there. You got to be able to put out funny sketches and write sketches and then perform them and act them and do different characters. But then you also have to be able to have the ability to say, hey, I can do this live. I can do this in front of an audience. I can incorporate what I do online to a live show. So all been a really interesting, fun experiment. And I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to catching a show. If I can't make it in Buffalo, I live in Louisville, Kentucky, so I'm not far from some of the other shows. Nice. I got to make it out for one. I'm looking forward to that. And if I can, hopefully there's a...
You going to the Derby?
I will be at the Derby. Will you be at the Kentucky Derby?
Yeah. Yes. This will be my third straight year. Cannot wait.
So we need to connect there. And then also they should have you impersonate somebody for the Riders Up. I don't know, like someone they can't get. They'll be like, okay, we want Joey to do Barack Obama doing Riders Up or whoever it is.
That's a wild one. I don't even have that one in the cards.
Yeah, I was trying to throw out somebody I haven't seen you do before. Yeah. So.
I mean, Mahomes did it last year. Like, we could have sat side by side and done it together.
And that one hurt. That really hurt. And so Josh Allen came, stayed at our house with us for a few days. The Bills GM did as well. And so we have a big group of people watching Mahomes, the Super Bowl champion quarterback, do the Riders Up. It's me, Josh, Brandon Bean, and our crew standing there observing.
It's the dagger in your guys' hearts and everybody's hearts in the NFL.
Yeah, so in our mind, it was like, okay, next year that's going to be Josh, and I don't think it's in the cards. So
one day I met Josh. I met Josh at the Derby last year. It was great. He was super nice. Took a photo with me because my mom is like just a crazy Josh Allen fan, like has Josh Allen shirts and stuff out of nowhere. But please do. I got my suit and everything all ready to go. I will be there both Oaks and Derby Day. Can't wait.
Yeah, I will be there. Unfortunately, I'll be there at least Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and hopefully no more than that during the week. It becomes an absolute grind. And then all of my guests get into town. We have a couple maybes out there, but like if Jason Kelsey comes in, and look, he's got a million things going right now, so I'm not sure if him and Kyle can make it, but he's going to come in Thursday night or Friday morning just looking to rip up the town. I've been at the track all week, and now I got to just rally for these next couple days.
what do you do at the track all week? Because I'm naive. I'm just, for me, I'm like, oh, it's like Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, so there's racing all week, and then there's charity events at night. They'll have, like, on Wednesday night, there's a big charity event where they have the handicappers come, like 3 professional handicappers, and they'll kind of coach you through who they think you should bet, which last year, funny enough, I was sitting next to the owner of Mage at that charity event, and he got all ticked off because no one was talking about Mage, and he was like, go back and watch the Florida Derby and tell me if Forte scratches why we're not the favorite in the Derby. So I ended up winning a ton of money. Brandon Bean's got an awesome video of them just paying me out over about 2 minutes at a time. So
hell yeah.
Yeah, so I lucked out going to that one last year and sitting next to the owner of Mage. That one paid off in a big way. But we will definitely connect Derby week. That's happening. All right, so you're a Steelers fan. You're from Indy. I don't fully get how that strung about, but that's okay. Like, I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and people are just fans of everywhere. I'm like, no, you can choose like the Colts, the Bengals, the Titans. Like, there's your proximity. But around here, it's Steelers, it's Cowboys. Now there's a ton of Bills fans. Not necessarily because of me, because the Bills are finally cool again. But there's obviously a lot of Chiefs fans because you get the young kids, kind of like I was as a kid. Like, you're rooting for Aikman and those guys because they're winning Super Bowl after Super Bowl. So I say all that, and we don't have to get into your fandom. I just want to know, are the Steelers going to let Russ cook, or is it Justin Fields' time in Steeler Nation?
Yeah, fair question. Look, I think you're going in, and it's going to be. I think they've made it pretty clear so far in the week that it's been that Russell's going to be the starter, and Fields is going to be there. Hopefully, develop some more. I don't know how you develop them on the bench necessarily. I don't know. But look, I think they're throwing darts at a board, man, and they're just trying to see what sticks. And I'm just pleasantly surprised because I've grown up with, this is the Steeler way, and we kind of just let things marinate and sit on it, and we don't make any, rash moves, if you will. But, I think that we're kind of evolving, which is exciting because it's like, hey, it's pretty clear and evident that it just wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't working out. It wasn't going to get you to where you want to be. Sure, you might be, in it or competitive or 9-8 or 10-7 or whatever. With a guy like Kenny or a guy like Mason Rudolph, which, I hate it because I was lucky enough to, form like some personal relationships with those guys over their time in Pittsburgh. And so it just really sucked that it didn't work out on multiple reasons. But, I do tip the cap to Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin and Mr. Rooney for just being like, all right, we're not going to just sit here and accept what we got. We're not happy with it. We're going to make the move. We're going to, try to be aggressive. And if it doesn't work, you're on the books for 1 year with Russ, 1.2 mil, and you haven't given the contract extension to Justin Fields from his rookie deal. So it's like, hey, they don't work out, then we'll just wipe our hands and move on to our next experiment until something sticks. And if they do, then great. Then we got what we're looking for. Which I think is good because I think at the end of the day, it was just shown and proven that what they had was not going to get them to where they wanted to be, to where fans wanted to be, unfortunately. So I'm excited, man. Look, if you can't be really good, at least be interesting. And I'm getting plenty of interest coming this spring, this summer, all the way through the fall, I'm sure.
Yeah, I was just with the Bob Does Sports guys down in Florida, and they had hung with Kenny Pickett recently and said he's the best dude ever. I covered him with ACC Network. Great dude, but I always say in the NFL, you either have a quarterback that can win you a Super Bowl or you don't. It takes a all-time generational defense that we can literally name, like the 85 Bears, the Ravens, the Bucks. Like, you can win with an average quarterback. Yeah, exactly. So that's a good one as well. And so it's like, if you don't think he's that dude, then move on as quick as you can and go try and find that guy, whether Russ or Justin is that, or if they finally are bad enough to now move up high enough to get your franchise guy, then I guess it works out either way. Do you have too much respect for Mike Tomlin to impersonate him?
Well, I've been on the I've been on the
let me
record.
say this because I know that you're not. I shouldn't have said it like that. It's because I know that you respect the guys that you're doing it. Let me say this: are you in fear of the backlash if you start doing Tomlin impersonations?
I just because I've been on record of I've had my gripes with Coach T over the last 5 years, definitely, and I've been fairly public about them. So, I'll just get that out there. Look, I still am a fan of him. I respect what he's built. I love that he is guys want to play for him and he's a leader of men. And I love the hell out of that and respect that. But then at the same time, it's like you look over the last 7 years, like, okay, sure, no losing season. I know every national media person wants to freaking, just lose their minds over the fact of that. Right. But still, it's like, okay, well, Kyle Brandt made a good point. It's like, well, he's gotten his ass kicked in the playoffs for 7 years. Like, it hasn't even been close. Like, it's not even been a game ever in the last 7 years. Like, and there's just a bunch of those stats to back it up. So that's where my frustration comes from. Like, I think it doesn't have to be an either or thing. I think it can be an and thing. Like, I can have respect and appreciate the leader of men and the type of coach that Coach Tomlin is and what he's done since 2007, while also being frustrated as hell with the 7 year. Like, I think that's fine. I know that's foreign for everybody to believe in in the national talk shows and on Twitter and everything, but I'm perfectly fine with being that way. Now you're getting me all worked up, Eric, but
yeah, we'll get this. We'll get this. No,
but in terms of impression, look, I don't like if I don't think that I can do a good one, I just don't do it. And like, I just don't think I have a Tomlin in my arsenal. Like, I think that he would be fantastic for someone to get down. And if I could, I would, because he's gold. I mean, he's gold around the microphone. All the stuff that he says, I don't know where the hell he comes up with it. Paint the barn red if you don't have red paint. And, we want volunteers, not hostages, and cutting eyelids off. I don't know where he comes up with this stuff. I don't know if he game plans for it before. But it would be great. It would be absolute gold to do. I just don't think I have it in my arsenal, and that's all right.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. All right. So your podcast is hilarious. You and Benedict do a great job on These Guys podcast. So I was listening to the most recent episode and you were discussing football numbers and when you look at a guy and you talk about offensive linemen, it's hysterical. And we would talk about that too. So you guys were talking the 60s are the guard numbers. Well, we used to always be like, dude, 60 is the fat number. You give your fattest guard number 60. Sure. And one of my buddies, Craig Irving, wore 60. He'd always get super sensitive about that. And then my college number is 77. You guys are like, that's your athletic. And I played center, which it's not a great center number, but I came in as a tackle. All that being said, where does number 70 land on your kind of scale on what that tells you about an offensive lineman, number 70?
Yeah, number 70. To me, I think that is like a tweener tackle, like a kind of like a tackle that you're like, I don't know. He may have a good day, he may have a bad day. Are his arms long enough? He's kind of one of those dudes. So a tweener tackle. I could see center. I like center. I like 70 for a center. It's a good round number. Looks good on the chest. You're calling out all the shots there. You're the captain of the line. You're the signal caller, if you will. So I could see 70 in the middle. Definitely no 70 as a guard. That makes no sense. Left guard, right guard is strictly reserved for 60 to 69. Maybe a 58, but the 58 you have to be absolute super athlete. But yeah, you're pulling and you're just a mauler, dude. You're coming down and you are absolutely leveling dudes. That's got to be a 58 left guard. Other than that, if you have a 50 or a low 60 left tackle, your quarterback's screwed. Sorry.
Oh, he's your emergency guy that's filling in at the end of the game. You're like, he didn't even get to choose his number when he got in the league. So
yes, worst tackle number 67. That guy, you look at him and you're like, how did you get past playing high school football? The edge rusher it's like he's literally a cone, like a traffic cone. Like the edge rusher just has to bend a little bit to get around him, and he's at your quarterback in 1.8 seconds if 67 is your tackle number. Sorry.
And if you're rocking 79, you better be huge. Like you better be the biggest dude on the offensive line if you're rocking 79.
77 to 79, you got to be like Tyron Smith, Broderick Jones, Orlando Pace, like that. You got to be up there, absolute monster of men to be 77 to 79 for sure.
We were in the pool drinking beer at the Pro Bowl. That wasn't like a brag there. We were in the pool. I'm getting to a point on Tyron Smith. We're sitting in the pool drinking beers, and Jameis Winston's just cutting up, and this is before he started dieting and all that. And Tyron Smith takes off his shirt and gets in the pool. And Jameis is like, I think I got to get out. He goes, I'm fatter than our left tackle sitting in here. And then all of a sudden, Eli Manning walks by. And Eli Manning's got like a little 4-pack. And Jameis Winston's like, dude, I got to get my life in check. Eli Manning's got abs. Tyron Smith is skinnier than me. And he goes, and I'm drinking beer with all the other linemen sitting in the pool. Like, I got to get my life together. That's what, like, ESPN ran a special on him that offseason about his diet, his training. I'm like, it all came from a come to Jesus moment when he just has, like, 2 16-ounce giraffes in Hawaii in the pool. And he's like, man, I really screwed this up on the body fat percentage here.
Hey, Jameis is just a dude's dude, man, and that story, what you just said about the story about him getting in shape, it throws me back to the Big Ben days, the annual story in June or July that some ESPN reporter would put out about how he's really shaping up his physicality and everything, and same old Ben when it comes to September. He switched to like he got really pissed at Jay Glazer or whatever for making that comment about he plays ultimate frisbee or whatever it was, but no, that's Tyron Smith, man. Let's flex that dude out the tight end. I mean, that guy is he's lethal. He could go down there at a goal line and catch a pass, I'm sure.
Yeah, that dude's an absolute stud. I don't want to make you work on this. These are all kind of guys you've done, and these can be very quick. But if you don't mind, a few quick impersonations before I let you go.
Yeah.
All right. We'll stay on the topic of the Bills. Starting on Buffalo podcast. Mel Kiper on who the Bills may take in the first round.
Yeah, I think you're like a Buffalo. Not a lot of holes, right? Not a lot of holes there. You got Josh Allen. He fills all the holes himself. So I'd go wide receiver early. Now, big flag, big concern right now will be Stephon Diggs. What's that relationship like? Are him and Josh Allen breaking up? Are they on the men's? Are they on different dating apps? I don't know what the answer is right now, but I would say wide receiver, certainly first pick overall in Buffalo.
So good. All right. Nick Saban trying wings in Buffalo for the first time and then realizing that they're better than any he's ever had in his life.
Well, I don't really consider myself much of a wing man. I'm really concerned about dessert. And the little oatmeal Debbie cookies that I have, that's all I really care about. Now, I'll say, if you want me to brag on Buffalo's wings, that's fine. You guys are fine. I don't know. I don't see many trophies. I don't see any statues of any Buffalo wings out there like I have at Alabama. All right? Now, they're fine. I prefer ranch myself. I don't know if you guys like the ranch or the blue cheese, but you give me a little bit of Buffalo wing, you give me some ranch, I'll be fine. Other than that, I don't want to talk about it, so quit asking.
Oh, that's good. That's good. All right. Mahomes talking about the offsides on Kadarius Toney that wiped out the Kelsey touchdown in the regular season game against the Bills.
Yeah, I mean, absolute bullshit. Like, I don't know if I can cuss on this pod, but, I mean, it is what it is. Like, that play was so cool, so badass that they should have just picked up the flag. I mean, we're in Kansas City, and they're going to call the flag on that for Kadarius Toney, absolute clown who doesn't even make on the Super Bowl roster. I mean, it's a total joke. That's why we came up to Buffalo, and we did what we did, and we broke everybody's hearts again, is because of that call. Like, if Buffalo, you have that win in the regular season, if they wouldn't have called that, we wouldn't have come up to Buffalo and did what we did to you. But we had to punish you because Kadarius Toney's clown ass was offsides by 2 feet and lost us that game.
Oh, that's awesome. Last one. Collinsworth on a preview of the Bills season and if they can win it all this year.
Well, that's the question. That's $1 million question when it comes to Buffalo. I mean, time and time again, we have seen the Bills have teams we thought could make a Super Bowl run or even be in the Super Bowl, Al, and they lose 4 straight times back in the 90s. You remember? I remember calling a few of those games, and man, do I think that they have a team that could win it all? Absolutely. Anything is possible when you have a guy like Josh Allen back there. He's like a Superman. But I tell you, that kryptonite resides down in Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes, he has shown time and time again that if they want to get over the hump, Superman's got to throw on his cape and end that kryptonite down in KC.
Man, for the record, Joey was not prepped on any of those. I know those are impersonations that he's done in the past, but he was not prepped on any of those subjects. I can't thank you enough for the time, brother. This has been an absolute joy. Go to do people even use that anymore? Go to officialjoeymulinaro.com. Get your tickets for his show. Subscribe to his podcast. These guys, it's a great podcast. On Twitter, he's at Joey Mulinaro. On Instagram, he's at Joey. Thanks for the time, brother. That was an absolute treat.
Eric, I appreciate you, man. Great to talk to you. Glad we got to finally link up. And hope to see all the Buffalo folks, Bills Mafia out there April 17th at Helium. And the Derby, man. I will definitely be in touch and looking forward to hanging.
Yeah, we'll connect for sure.
See you, pal.